Usually, videos dedicated to the problem of consciousness start like this.
Consciousness is the greatest mystery of the universe.
But that is not the case, at least not in the biological sense. The obvious functional purpose of consciousness allows us to view it as a highly efficient adaptive mechanism, and we can see this clearly. The primary purpose of living matter is its self-reproduction. The environment in which living matter exists is constantly changing, so in order to effectively transmit genetic information, living matter must adapt to these changes. The key adaptive mechanism is genotypic variability. However, since it develops very slowly, as the result of an enormous number of life cycles, genotypic variability is effective only under slow and global changes in the external environment, such as climatic ones. But there are also local, rapidly developing phenomena. To counter these harmful influences, living matter reproduces itself with a large surplus. For example, the vast area covered by forests makes it impossible to completely destroy them through any local catastrophes. However, what interests us here is a different evolutionary solution. At early stages of development, some forms of living matter acquired the ability for purposeful movement in space, the ability to migrate from locations with unfavorable conditions to those where conditions are favorable. This is how animals emerged. Let us compare the biomass of plants and animals. Now let us compare their species diversity. It is obvious that animals need to produce much less biomass to maintain the genetic stability of the species. This means they preserve and transmit genetic information more efficiently. This efficiency, however, required a significant complication of living matter. For purposeful movement in space, the living organism must necessarily have at least some description of external reality inside it. So, this description, or let's say, the internal model of external reality, is what we call consciousness. That is, in biological sense, consciousness is simply a system that provides an organism with awareness of critically important parameters of its environment and determines the direction of its movement. In this sense, even Euglena viridis possesses some kind of proto-consciousness. With the help of a photosensitive cell, information about the spatial location of the light source appears inside its shell. Even this minimal level of awareness has proven sufficient for the successful transmission of its genetic information over many millions of years. Our consciousness differs from the proto-consciousness of Euglena only in the volume and complexity of the internal information model of surrounding reality. In Euglena, the internal model is formed by a single cell. In human, billions of cells are involved in this process. Through synapses, neurons unite into ensembles that are equivalents of certain objective physical parameters. These ensembles, connecting with each other, create an actual multimodal snapshot of surrounding reality. The chronological sequence of these neural imprints forms what we call memory and adds a fourth dimension to the internal three-dimensional model of reality. When we see a certain object, its neural reflection in the visual cortex activates not only all similar ensembles stored in memory, but also their context. And if past experience of interaction with that object or objects of the same kind was positive, we strive toward this object. If negative, we strive away from it. Of course, reducing complex human activity to the simplest life algorithm of Euglena is shocking. At the same time, this example highlights the simplicity of the concept that consciousness is an internal model of reality of varying degrees of accuracy and complexity, present in any organism capable of purposeful movement in space, including humans with all their higher mental functions, spirituality, and creativity.